Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Richie Unicorn Call here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are back. Today is Tuesday, and there really isn't that much news to talk about. But I did want to talk about a few of the spell reworks, especially the ones that have grew a lot of comments and complaints. So we'll get into that in a sec. We're gonna go over the news, but first, let's give a shout out to a few of the following wizards I have met through the spiral. Shout out to Ren from the Caribbean. Luca Galaxy Reaver from the Crash Boss, Hunter Sea Wielder, Bradley Skullwalker, Jordan, and Sage. So, yeah. Jordan Sage, not Jordan and Sage. Jordan Sage. I saw a lot of people doing Crash team ups, been trying to farm some Dream Water and some legendary socket wrenches. So if you ever see me in a spiral, make sure to say hi and get yourself a shout out. And hopefully I got everybody. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about, y'all. Primarily news. So again, let's talk about the news. But like I said, nothing much is really happening. The birthday is pretty much wrapped up. I mean, there really isn't much to talk about here. I mean, there's still a ton of stuff in the crown shop in case you wanted to buy anything. But, you know, the free membership, that only lasted for a couple of days. And, you know, you still got that free code, so make sure you are redeeming that free code. And we're also on the last set of membership benefits, which is double gardening and also the, what was it called? The little daily event, like the daily assignment double rewards for that. So make sure to check that out. But yeah, the party is pretty much wrapping up. And hopefully you guys are excited for the new world of Darkmoor, whenever that decides to come out. And over here, we got the Spiral Showcase event. So make sure to do this as well. You can get some pretty cool stuff, such as the Professor's Horde pack, jewels from the Rockhammer Jewel pack, Mega Snacks, and more. It's going to last through the 29th. And then over here, we got a promotion going on. You know, can I just say something? It's, you know, I feel like back in the day, they used to talk about these, like, membership type of deals all the time on their social media accounts like Twitter. Now they never ever tweet anything about this. I feel like I'm like one of the only few people that actually remind people that there's a sale going on. And obviously you'll see it in the front of the login page, but I do miss those tweets. I wonder why they stopped doing those. Anyway, yeah, 59 for a 1 year membership. Check it out. It's going to last all the way through the 29th. I highly recommend it if you're someone like me that plays this game 24/7. So check it out. And then over here we got the Fall Scroll of Fortune item, which had returned because last time they had put it in the crown shop, it was bugged, or you could buy one of the items. I think it was like the wild hair with gold or whatever, but it is back in the crown shop, so make sure to check that out. Hopefully it's in the crown shop. It does say that the item is temporarily unavailable. I'm pretty sure it's still in the crown shop. I'm not too sure. As a matter of fact, let's check it out again. Yeah, let's do a little bit of a crown checkup because we haven't checked the crown shop in a while. Yeah, no, they got the items in here. They got the autumn leaf swarm and yeah, right? Wait, where is it? Yeah, it's all in here. Yeah, all right. Yeah, everything's in here. Sweet. So check it out. I think everything is in there. Who knows? At this point, who knows? But check it all out. It's in the crown shop if you want to buy some Fall Scroll of Fortune items. Check it all out. All right, so going on from over that, let's talk about the membership benefits, which I said double gardening, and then the double daily assignment bonus as well. So anyway, now let's talk about some of these spell reworks, which is a lot. It's a lot. So let's talk about a few. And I move my big fat head because I know my head is in the way. So let's talk about it. And there are a few here. I didn't list them all because there still are a few ones that I don't know where a picture would be found. I think Zepha, if you watch her video about the new Shadow spell, she actually has a mock-up drawing of the Shadow Strike. I didn't want to take her picture. But these are the most notable changes that I've seen so far. We could talk about Shadow Strike, but basically they kind of nerfed it to 40% pierce instead of 50% pierce, and that's for Shadow Strike. Now remember that all these other Shadow transformations are also going to have a pact tied with them. So if you guys don't know, you can watch the previous video where we talked about Shadow Pacts and that whole system, which of course scratches a lot of heads because, well, quite frankly, it is a lot. But I kind of like it a little bit better than the backlash, just because you can fulfill that contract, and so you can take less damage if you fulfill that contract, rather than backlash where if you're not doing the things that the shadow creature doesn't like, then it's going to add on backlash. So first things first, let's start off with Empower, which again is another hot topic spell that everybody's been talking about. This will take 5% of your health and then reward you with 3 pips. So similar to the previous Empower, it's just going to take a lot more of your health. Now, obviously, if you're a life wizard or even like a death wizard like me, and you usually heal up all right, especially with drains or heals, then I mean, this is pretty much of a no biggie. However, for anyone else though, especially if you're a storm wizard and you just don't have enough health, or you're running a glass cannon build, this will hurt. That you will feel it. Now, luckily, with this change and the other changes concerning sacrificing of health, this actually will not take any universal blades, and it won't take any universal shields. However, it won't even remove any of the universal weaknesses that might be on you, which Cam had mentioned, which we talked about yesterday, how the main intent was that apparently it was never the intention to break weaknesses. So players are just going to have to, I guess, use Purge or an off-school Wanted or something to get rid of weaknesses. I don't know what to tell y'all. And I'm not the game designer. Don't look at me. Hey. Usually, I don't even attack. I usually hate attacking, so I don't really care about weaknesses on me. But I know that was a big no-no for a lot of community members, because a lot of people just didn't like that people used Empower as a form of a weakness counter. And now, since it doesn't do that anymore, well, a lot of players are just going to have to figure out something else. Maybe like an item card Empower. I have no idea. Now over here we got Rusalka, which is part of all, and I mean all, of the shadow spells from Darkmoor that are pretty much getting changed. Actually, was Rusalka from Darkmoor? I can't remember. No, it was Glowbugs. But anyway, a lot of these shadow spells are getting changed by not even requiring a shadow pip. They just have their damage nerfed. So if you would want the OG version, or at least the quote-unquote buffed up version, you would have to basically fuse that with something like Dark Nova or Shadow Shepherd or something like that. You're basically fusing spells together. And a lot of people didn't like this change, obviously, because you're adding more cards to your deck, which of course could equate to more deck failing. So Shadow Fusion in general, I think when it comes out, especially when we try it out on Test Realm, I think a lot of people are not going to like it. Personally, for me, I'm probably not even going to do it at all, because I just don't use my shadow spells in general, because Shadow Pip generation is really inconsistent, unless in this, upcoming update, they figure something out with that, and it's a little bit more reliable and not all over the place. I can see myself using it, but yeah, I don't really use the shadow hit spells as much. I know a lot of storm wizards love using glow bugs and stuff like that, which we will talk about soon, as you see in the picture right now. So let's talk about Shadow Seraph, which Shadow Seraph is all over the place as well. I know this looks weird, but check this out. So it's a 25% increase to your overall damage, right? Which is interesting, because Shadow Seraph first started off as this type of healing transformation. But not only that, but you'll be allowed to pretty much hit and also heal pretty much at the same time, or at least simultaneously, whatever you want to do, because you're going to get that increased outgoing damage, which is pretty nuts. And then, of course, you're going to get plus 35% outgoing healing, which is awesome. And you're going to get that for 3 rounds. And then I believe you will also get a life pip, if I'm not mistaken. And then in order to fulfill that contract, remember we talked about all these shadow forms and their contracts, you'll have to basically use a charm. So if you wanted to, maybe give yourself like an elemental blade, I guess, and then that will fulfill that contract. So let's talk about Glowbug Squad. Oh, by the way, the extra amount of buffs and stuff, like the Absorb on heals, which I can actually show you right now, that's completely gone. They said that they just couldn't do it, unfortunately. So if we go over here, let's go to Shadow. So Shadow Seraph, right? This will give you 25% increased damage, 25% outgoing healing, and then absorb on heals, right? It would give you a tiny absorb shield. And quite honestly, at first, I was a little gutted that they were taking away the absorb on heals. But then I thought to myself, it's just such a low absorb. I think it's only like 100 or 50 or whatever like that. It's just like super weak, especially up in the higher levels. I think back in the day, it was cool because like, oh, look, I got some special effects with my shadow spell. But this spell nowadays, I just don't see myself using a lot, especially since you take a little bit more increased damage, which is 25%, which might not even matter to some of y'all out there rocking like a billion resist, but for other players, it still does hurt, and that tiny little absorb shield it just doesn't really do much. So I can see why they did away with it. I mean, it would just be too much. I mean, maybe they could slide it in as a little Easter egg feature. Obviously, they can't. But yeah, overall, I'm not too, like, I don't know, I'm not too angry about the whole Shadow Seraph change. And plus, you can fulfill the contract by giving yourself a Tri-Blade, right? And you can also attack with Shadow Seraph as well, because previously, if you did something like Wings of Fate, it would also add a backlash and then decrease the backlash, because Wings of Fate is an attack, and that's also a heal. So maybe we could see some potential combos with it. I am actually excited to see what Wings of Fate will look like without the shadow. I mean, could this potentially just be a random hit spell and then heal? Like, is it going to maintain that factor or what? Like, what's going to happen with that? I'm really curious about that. I hope they don't lower the healing. I don't know. I think Wings of Fate in general just isn't a spell a lot of people be rocking with. Alright, let's talk about Global Squall, which again, talking about all these shadow spells being changed. If you want the bigger version, you'll have to fuse it with something like Dark Nova. And again, we talked about how people didn't like that. So you can still use Glowbug without even the Shadow Pip. It's just going to have lower damage, which, of course, you can just use Bunny Yips. Like, again, I can show you on screen right now because I have all these spells. You can just do, like, a max tier Bunny Yips and you should be fine. But I think it will definitely depend on your specific play style. If you're someone like Dawn, and, Dawn loves to speedrun the game, yeah, just do, like, a max tier Bunny Yips. I mean, base Bunny Yips, right? All you need is a Death School Pip, and it takes 3 pips. So you could basically use that round 1. And it had a base of 605. And if you max tier it, it goes up to 635, which I really don't think you need a max tier it. But base Bunny Yips is 605. Meanwhile, the Glowbug Squall, without any Shadow Pips, is 520. So yeah, you're better off just using Bunny Yips in general. Now, for low levels, it still might be a concern. No, a lot of low levels love Glowbug Squall. We'll see how players feel about it. And like I said, if you did want to get the main OG version of it, or at least the buffed up version of Glowbug, you will have to, sadly fuse that together. Now, let's talk about Dark Tribute, aka Dark Pact, which they renamed it, which is actually cool. I like Dark Tribute as a name. Pretty much similar to Empower, you're going to get 5% of your health gone. So, again, if you're a Storm Wizard, you might want to reconsider doing that. But also, it's not going to take any universal buffs, and it's also not going to get rid of any weaknesses that you have on yourself, or shields, which is also good. And they also buffed it, right, by, I believe, 10%. The original version of Dark Pact for Death Wizards, that's at a base of plus 25%. So this is at plus 35%. So that's kind of on par with the pet cards, which Cam also mentioned that you could possibly even stack those with the pet cards as well. So it's not too much of a lost cause, but as a Death Wizard, you're definitely going to have to, be aware of your health. Because I've seen a lot of battles where Death Wizards in general will spam stuff like this, and there's not really much damage to be given because it took moon damage. Well, now this is just going to take 5% of your health. So if you do it again, now it's going to be like 10% of your health, then 15, then 20, and then so forth and so forth. So, just got to be careful because 5% every time you're spamming this is a lot. But the buff, though, for plus 35%, that makes this a very powerful universal buff. So I would highly encourage players to try to check this out. I mean, I would love to use it as a life wizard, but unfortunately, in Power and Dark Pact, or as we know, Dark Tribute, these are these exclusive death spells. I would love to put in the training points to train for them, but unfortunately, that's just how it is. I gotta close my door real quick. Kids being loud. But I think it's actually a pretty cool spell, but I know a lot of people aren't vibing with the 5% health. Now let's talk about Donate Shadow, which is probably the only the only buff I think a lot of people like. Let me just bring my head back a little bit. I think that the Donate Shadow is probably the only one I think people can actually rock with. Now let me show you the OG version right here. The OG version, terrible, right? It takes 2 Shadow Pips for starters, so it's going to take you a while to even get 2 Shadow Pips. And then it also has a 75% accuracy, so you could potentially fizzle this. And it basically gives 1 Shadow Pip to the target, right? Now, the new version, right, is that it gives 1 Shadow Pip to a target. And it only takes 1 Shadow Pip and has 100% accuracy. It's absolutely needed. And it doesn't sacrifice like 50% of your health, which thank goodness it doesn't. So this is awesome. This is a really good change. I like this one. And then we have Dark Nova, which, I don't know what's going on with Dark Nova. I'm guessing 75 shadow damage and then like plus 20% blades times 3. And then I guess that the Dark Nova will put like a dot on you. I have no idea. Your guess is mine. We'll have to have somebody else analyze that. Some of these spells can be a little weird to kind of like analyze. There's just so much stuff on these cards nowadays that it kind of gets hard to like understand them. I mean, again, I probably won't be using Dark Nova. I know some of y'all will, but I'm not going to be using Dark Nova anytime soon. There was some concerns about some spell quests that this might affect, or some boss remasters, such as Morganth, where obviously in that fight, Morganth in challenge mode will give you that Dark Nova spell, and you basically build up to use that spell. But if this is only going to do like 75 damage, then there might have to be a totally new strategy for that in general. In my opinion, if you have to use Dark Nova for anything, such as like the Morganth rematch, I highly recommend you do it now and get it over with before these spells get changed into oblivion. So if you gotta do it now. I'm warning y'all. Don't say I didn't warn y'all. And then last but not least, we have the Dark Surge spell. Now this spell I'm also pretty interested in, but of course a lot of people are not going to be interested. As a matter of fact, this will actually take more health than in Power and Dark Pact. This is going to take 10% of your entire health, and if you're anything but a life or a death wizard and you can't heal up, or you just have low health in general, that is a lot, and I mean a lot of health. Now, but let's read what the rework is for it. So basically, it's going to give 1 pip, which by the way, the school pips are power pips, right? It's going to give 1 school pip of whatever you are. So let's say you're a life wizard, it will give me a life pip, right? And then it's also going to give you a magic weaving school pip as well. So let's say I am magic weaving into storm, so now it's going to give me a storm pip. And those basically equate to power pips. They're just specific pips. And let's say I needed those specific pips to cast like a spell, this might be a really good support item to use, especially if someone's trying to get a specific school pip, or if their arc mastery is just like ridiculously too low. The only drawback is you're going to take 10% of health damage. Now that is a lot of health, and if you're someone like a storm wizard, that is going to suck. Like, it is going to suck. You're going to feel it, dude. I hope you got something like a Pigsy or like anything else, because that is going to hurt. Now, the original version of Dark Surge is just a regular type of pip where it takes 1 Shadow Pip, and then it's going to give you just 2 Power Pips. The new version is also going to take the same amount of Shadow Pips, so it'll take 1 Shadow Pip, and it's going to give you specific pips based on whatever you're rolling with. The only drawback is that you're going to take a lot of health damage, which a lot of people don't like. Pretty much nobody likes any of these spell changes, I don't think. Primarily because you are going to be sacrificing a lot of health by doing so. And I think we mentioned it in the last video where it's kind of like a high cost, low reward, or low risk, high reward, whatever it is, like high risk, high reward, whatever you want to classify it as. And like I said, for me, I'm a life wizard. I mean, if it really comes down to health, I'm just gonna spam any of these heals, dude. Like, it really is that. I mean, I'll even give myself a Spree Swarm. Like, if it's really that bad, I will just spam Spree Swarm for the rest of the match. If it's really that bad. And possibly, I just don't know how it feels like to have 5% of health going. Because, again, I'm a life wizard. You know? If it really comes that bad, I recommend y'all get some health jewels. Highly recommend y'all get some health jewels. But beyond that, I'm personally excited for all these spells. It definitely changes it up a little bit. It definitely makes you stay on your toes. It makes you think a little bit like, should I use this spell and take away some health? Or should I just wait and not do it? You know, it kind of makes you think a little bit. I don't think it will be too much of a problem, though. I think KI, what they always do every year is just try and be flashy, try and be special. But we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. I'm actually excited primarily about what the final boss will be like, and if any of these spells would become even viable for those special bosses. Lately with some of these new bosses, it's just a polymorph fight, and then just seems like a time waster. I'm just hoping that the new boss, or whatever the final boss will be, is one of those where it's no polymorphs. Please, no polymorphs. No more polymorphs, KI. I'm tired of the polymorphs. All I want to do is flex the Stitch. Alright, which, by the way, is from the Technomancer bundle. By the way, check it out. Please, I just want to flex it, bro. I want to flex the outfit. I don't want to be polymorphed with all of these preset cards. I don't want to do that. I just want a good old hard boss fight. No juju spamming, none of that. Just a hard boss fight that hits hard, that got a lot of resist. Just give me something like that, man. Give me something like that. And maybe it might even be, maybe we might get a boss that will actually require a healer. Maybe. Possibly not. Probably not. We'll probably just gonna feint stack or blade stack and then hit as we always do. But give me a hard boss, man. I'm ready to get punched in the face, bro. I'm ready to get rocked, bro. I want to see a Storm Wizard get one-shotted. That's what give me a boss that one-shots a Storm Wizard. I want to see that. Give me that, KI. They won't. They won't do it. They'll probably put it in challenge mode. And a lot of people don't like challenge mode. Now, my main concern also is how some of these new spells and new spell updates are going to affect stuff like challenge mode and raids. And, of course, the big bad one, PvP. Especially PvP. So we will see how that goes and how that plays out whenever the update goes officially live. So, yeah. Until then, my name is Richard Unicorn Caller, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.